Hello, everyone, and welcome to part three of our POV Beyond the Degree series presented by We Are Made. My name is Imani, and I'll be serving as your moderator for today. And I'm also the founder of this incredible space. If you don't know, We Are Made is on a mission to help the next generation better themselves. And I couldn't be prouder to end the first leg of our six-part series, diving deeper into trends and campaigns. So, as a collective, we've all witnessed the shifts in today's marketing and influencer strategies and the race for consumers' attention. And as traditional marketing and strategy fades away, today's conversation is focused on going behind the scenes of what it really takes to expand your creative perspective, learn how to stay ahead of the curve, and build campaigns that stand out with purpose. Let's go ahead and introduce our panelists for today. I'm going to bring them up one by one. First up, we have Tomi Talabi. She is the founder of the Black Beauty Club, a space built to uplift, amplify, and empower Black beauty in all of its forms. She had previous work experience working for Boho, Estee Lauder, and of course, Pinterest. And no matter what role she has actually had, she continues to shape conversations around representation and the future of the global beauty landscape. And we are honored to have her here today. Welcome, Tomi.
Thank you, Imani. This is amazing. Thank you for having me.
Course. Next up, we have Daisha Roberts. She is a brilliant strategist and culture and community expert, known for elevating diverse narratives across platforms. With her previous work experience in Blavity, AdWeek, Chanel, her work continues to reflect a deep understanding of culture, audience behavior, and the experiences needed to shift the industries forward. Welcome, Daisha.
Hi, Imani. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Course. And last but not least, we have Shea Moisture's very own content lead and creative director, ShaNiece Pals. Previous work experience working at the agency side for the EGAMI Group, a Webby Award-winning mastermind who serves as the creative force behind some of your favorite beauty campaigns that center our culture. Her creative leadership blends heritage, authenticity, and the modern storytelling to celebrate Black beauty at every touch point. Welcome, ShaNiece.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So happy to have all of you guys. Welcome to POV. Today we're diving into trends and campaigns. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first question where we like to start here at POV is all of us had aspirations before we entered college, right? We probably had this beautiful plan for our lives and maybe something had changed. So what were your original career aspirations? I'm going to start with you, Tommy.
That's hilarious because I was supposed to be a doctor, which I think everyone has that same experience. I went to boarding school in Ghana. And when you go to school in Ghana, you actually pick like your track for life. And so I was in a science track and was meant to be for me to be a doctor. And then along the way, honestly, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I was very keen on being in the music industry because I also grew up in New York. And interestingly enough, I was really keen on working at Bad Boy. And my cousin was very much adamant that I do not do this at all because of the nature of the industry, which is super fascinating because of everything that's come out this week. And I was like, oh my God, my cousin actually just like saved me. I thought they were just being, they just didn't want you to do like the weird, they wanted you to just be a doctor or all of these other things. But I was really passionate about music and I wanted something adjacent. And so I started out in fashion PR because you get to work with so many different people. And that's honestly how that was my initial plan was to either be a doctor or work in music.
Deja, I'll go to you next.
Okay, well, for me, I always wanted to work in fashion. It's always been a love for me. But initially in college, I thought I was going to be a fashion editor. And I was going, well, while I've worked at magazines, I thought I was going to be on the editorial side. But I moved to New York on a whim shortly after college, and I realized that I had a natural knack for talent. And for anyone who's on here who doesn't work in our industry, talent meaning celebrity an influencer. And so I fell into that. And I've had some really great mentors throughout the way. And my background is PR, strategic communication. So I've been very lucky and fortunate enough to marry all of those passions together. And again, with great mentorship, great women in this industry that have kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. I knew early on I didn't want to go the traditional publicist route, but I also knew that I wanted to do events in some kind of way. And so here I am.
I love that little diversity. And round us out, ShaNiece.
So I went to school for psychology. There was a version of me that wanted to be a therapist. And because I'm an empath and I knew I would take everyone's grief home with me, I decided that that wasn't it. And then I wanted to have an experiential production company and then stumbled into beauty through agencies. But the my baseline of understanding just how people behave and think and all the human behaviors of it all make my job a little easier. As content lead for Shea, I'm obsessed with what will capture attention, what will help people move, what they care about, really understanding what they care about and who they are as people beyond the data. So definitely not a therapist, but I use my degree every day, whether it's for, leading content or just working with coworkers, because that's a challenge some days. So yes, that's how I got my start.
You know what I love most about everyone's story? Of course, I did my background. Everyone started somewhere, but then at one point, no matter what your degree was in, you figured it out. And I think a lot of us are nervous about that is because college makes you feel as though when you enter, like you have to know exactly what you want to do, who you want to be. But college also just expands your mindset to see all the different possibilities. So once you graduated, I'm sure many of you guys thought, okay, I just want to get a job. At all costs, I want to get a career. So, a lot of people have this buzzword going out right now, and it's all about personal branding. But things have changed, right? Personal branding can sometimes feel a little risky because you work a 9 to 5, and you also don't want to compromise losing your security that most of us tend to find in our day jobs. So, each of you guys working in both your personal branding as well as your corporate positions, how do you balance the two without feeling as though, it could be compromising to the future of you working at your company? I'll start with you, Tomi.
Um, I think that I would say that I have experience where being a founder of a really large community impact has basically been a detriment, transparently. I mean, I remember, I think last year, around this time in November, I was a part of the Vogue Business Innovator Awards, and that triggered a lot of people at the company, especially especially when there's so many opportunities at the company where you should be growing, honestly, and you're not, and you're actually having massive success in other places in your life. I think that for me also, before I even started working at my last company, everyone knew what I did, and I've been doing it already for about 2 years. And so, on one hand, people want you to have your own brand because they want to leverage it, right? And then on another hand, it can be um, an issue if they think that you're becoming too big for the boots they currently have you in, you know? But to me, it's a very interesting situation for me because I'm not big personally on personal branding because I'm more of a community person. My personal brand is like the last thing that I think about that I care about. But I do think that in spite of whether I think it or not, there is a brand of yourself that goes out there. And to be honest, I'm always fighting that, not because of a job, but just because I'm not interested in any of that. And if any of you know, Daisha is actually, I would consider a personal friend. And I had an Instagram account and I just deleted that Instagram account to create another Instagram account because I didn't want all of those eyes on me. But that's just me, right? And I think that for some people, um, having a personal brand, if you are a journalist, if you are in the influencer space, if you're in certain spaces, it's actually very beneficial for you. I think that I would love to hear what the rest of the girls think, but for me, it's not a thing that I'm particularly interested in, but I definitely work with other people to help them refine what their personal brand could look like.
How ironic that you help others. I love it. Deja, what about you and your story?
Yeah, so similar to Tommy, I always say I'm the behind the scenes girl. Excuse me. And so I really have always treated my career like a if you know, you know. And it wasn't until recently where I started to be more vocal on LinkedIn. I've been more vocal on Instagram, and then even then I'm like, ooh. But I think even when we talked about this prior, it's important for me to always show up in an authentic way. And I learned very early on to try to not dim my light just to appease others in these spaces. And like Tommy said, that has been a little bit to my detriment for some things as well. But I believe that whatever is supposed to align and what's supposed to happen will happen no matter what. And so I just try to lead with that. I think, and also within the past couple of years, I've been doing speaking engagements like this as well. And it's really helped me to brand myself as a thought leader, right? And so I'm mostly just providing my thoughts. I'm providing my expertise, my knowledge. And for me, this is giving back. And so, and like Tommy said too, like my personal brand is also built around Black women, Black people, community, the underrepresented communities, the underdog. I talk about this a lot on LinkedIn. So that's all that it is for me. I'm not necessarily, in the space where I work with influencers, right? I don't want to be an influencer, but I want to, of course, um, I want people to know that I have thoughts. And I am at the point in my career, I think all of us are probably like a decade in, we are experts, right? And we deserve to share our expertise and our knowledge on these platforms. And unfortunately, when you do get too big to them, there can be backlash. But I always say, just keep pushing, keep moving. And like I said earlier, what's for you will be for you. And I believe in being in spaces that celebrate you and not try to dim you.
Yeah, piggybacking off what Deja said, personal branding, when you call it that, is just it can be very intimidating. I am at the very early stages of that for myself, and when I was thinking about it, I had a lot of anxiety around how just my leadership and my team would view it, and oh, is Shanice doing too much, and you just need to do your job, and all that fun stuff. So I had all the thoughts, all the anxiety. I put it off forever. And I have some very honest friends that were like, what are you doing? You do all this work, all these hours, and no one knows you're insane. So enough of those conversations helped me kind of get there. But I decided that I needed to have a conversation with my manager, and I soft sounded it a little bit. Like I needed to see, how do you feel about that in other places, before I just, was honest about it with me for myself. But I said, hey, I have XYZ dreams and aspirations, and I would love the opportunity to speak on behalf of Shea in this role in my capacity. Are there rules? Are there guardrails? Are you okay with that? Do you have any angst around that? And we just had a very honest discussion. I told her my why. And that honest, just vulnerable approach worked for me. I said, this is not coming from a place where I'm trying to, be all in the mix. There are opportunities that I could be losing out on that could help me in the long run. So I would love for you to support that. So I needed to talk about it because I just I didn't want her to see it. And they're like, what are you doing? So I took just a communicative approach, if you will. Yeah.
I love that no matter what, whether it's Tomi getting awards, congratulations, by the way, or Deja putting herself out there, as well as ShaNiece, I think it's important that you find some way to stay true to all aspects of who you are. And I think sometimes personal branding can seem scary because it's easier when it's someone that doesn't know you because you're like, ah, they can't judge me. It's like it's nerve-wracking if they can see it. But when they can see it and they know you, it's too personal. But personal branding has the opportunity to show that you're more than just Shea Moisture's content lead. You're more than just the Black Beauty Club's founder. It's so many other elements. And Tomi is absolutely correct. I could not find her social. But I love that she decided, like, hey, I don't have to follow the way that everyone is producing. I want to have some parts of me to myself, and I'm very much so like that. I think I have like two posts. You don't really go see me too much, but I think it's because I'm figuring out like what I have to say. But once you align yourself with that, I think it all works out for everyone. Now, for people who are trendsetters in this room who actually want the visibility, what is your advice for people who are new creators up and coming? Because Deja, I heard you in an interview recently where you shared when you were working at AdWeek, you spoke on behalf of a lot of your clients, right? They were looking for certain influencers. But the thing is that you said, I really appreciated, you said, I also looked out for the talent. I looked out for representation. I looked out for the fees. I looked out for them having a little bit more accountability and being present. Why was that so important to you? And for anybody else who has any background on how to actually emerge and build more visibility, please feel free to share. Deja?
Yeah, so I love that question, and I get that one often. I think for me, I've always tethered the line, right? Like you work in-house or at an agency or wherever, and you're supposed to cast or book influencers. So of course you have to keep their interests in mind, but then me as a Black woman, I want to keep my interest in mind as well, right? And so I feel like I've always worked for the two. It's like so just a little backstory. I also have a fashion law degree. And I got that degree during COVID so I could become more of a fierce negotiator. I've been working on budgets and contracts when I first started and knew nothing, right? Like I was thrown into the fire and was like, okay, build it. And I was like, okay. And so I went to school to learn a bit more so I could really, hit hard and know the legal jargon and how to really read and redline contracts instead of just doing it out the blue. And so I think for me, it's just always important to take my people along. If you ever talk to folks in the industry that have worked with me, they've probably worked with me since the inception. So that's a 10-year relationship, right? And I've taken them through when I was just starting as an event coordinator to now I'm being director plus level roles. And so relationships, community is important. And I love that you found that clip because I forgot about it. But that is a story that I tell often that I have told many of my agent friends, like, hey, we have this amount. So really shoot higher, and we would keep it to each other, of course, right? But I also think when working with influencers and sometimes agents and managers, because of the brand, they can be intimidated. And so they shoot lower than what they should. So hey, somebody has to do it. And I've just taken the lead on, really giving folks the intel, and we've built camaraderie and a relationship around that. And I've been able to really forge a lot of relationships and also just new opportunities for emerging creators. That's really my knack. And I know you originally asked for emerging creators what they can do. I think it's consistency. And I think it's just showing up, and also I probably sound like a broken record, but relationship building. It's really growing those relationships in the spaces that you want to be seen in.
I'm gonna say, like, I love that you have had the same experience that I've had when I was working at Bobby Brown, and even other places. I remember one time we had this one girl who was an influencer, and she drove so much sales, but she didn't know. And she had a really what do you call it, strong following as well. But most importantly, is that she actually drove a lot of sales. And I remember we were working on a campaign, and she came and said some numbers in the low 4 digits or something. And I remember asking my assistant to go downstairs to call her and tell her that she needs to change that and come back with a different number. Um, and the same thing, I'm sure everybody knows what Joshua Kissy is. I remember when he was starting out, I forgot the name of what they used to treat at a cat. And I remember when I was working at UGG then, and we're really trying to push Student Kid on, and making sure they were getting paid. And every time he speaks somewhere, he always talks about the fact that a lot of times Black women have been the ones to look out for him as an influencer or as a content creator or now as a filmmaker. Um, and if it wasn't for Black women in these spaces, they wouldn't really know how to really ask for what they need and what they want. Um, and I think that it is definitely a duty to me. I found it really offensive that that would be the numbers that they would call for themselves, because I think it actually devalues everybody in the entire ecosystem. Um, and so, but I understand there's a lack of like transparency, but I feel like that's changing right now. Um, but I think that, I do a lot of work here in the US and I do a lot of work in the UK as well. And they have the same problem there, but it's even worse, because they are just way far behind on with compared to America on just what it means to be equitable overall. Um, we can do campaigns where we have at least, if we want to have more than two Black people, we can. In the UK, it's just one, so it makes it harder for them to give themselves a good rate, because maybe the next person who's Black is giving them a lower rate, and it just becomes this like weird situation that they're all in, but nobody's benefiting from it because everybody's getting underpaid, and so that really sucks. Um, in terms of how to be successful, as a creator, I think Daisha pretty much said it, and it's really um, about consistency, right? But I think it's also about having like your voice, which obviously ShaNiece just mentioned. Like, what do I want to say and how do I want to say it? I think is really important, because there's so many people doing the same things. What makes you special, and what do you actually have to offer? I think we live in a society, not to ramble on, a society where everybody wants what everybody else has, right? And so everybody thinks that they need to get it by doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. And I think some people can win that way, right? Because they just kind of figure out what the formula is that someone else is doing and they kind of bring it on. But I think the people who really make a difference, people like, for example, Simi Moonlight or any given Sunday, for example, they have a very distinct point of view, which is why they continue to grow. You know, on Nime and Dole, for example, who also has a very distinct point of view and has a wide audience for that. And so I think, to me, that is the most important thing that you need to kind of focus on, and being consistent, and being, and I hate to say this word, but being authentic. And the only way you are authentic is by deciding what it is you do want to talk about and how you want to talk about it and what makes you different from the next person. Otherwise, you might even have a lot of followers, but you actually won't have followers that can convert. And there's nothing, you can have 100,000 followers for me, and if you have 20,000 followers or 10 and you can convert that number, that's way more important to me than you having this like large number where it's just they're just following you because everybody else is following you, but you actually can't influence them to do anything.
I love that you speak about the loyalty. And ShaNiece, I actually want to piggyback on that question along the same lines, but from a Shea Moisture's point. You were on the Hugh Report, and I actually listened to that podcast. Great job on that episode.
Thank you.
And you spoke about the importance of casting and what you
Mhm.
look for. You're very strategic. So, same question when it
Mhm.
comes to the visibility for new creators. How do brands
Yeah.
choose talent? What can they do to set themselves apart so that you can notice them without them losing their authentic voice? Kind of like what Tomi said.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, You can always tell when a creator is really, really knows themselves and their voice and who they are. That energy shines through. That energy comes out through all of their content, through when I do callbacks, and things like that. So it's for me, I love, I really cast, yes, beauty, but also, are you a do you have a good spirit? Do you have a good energy? Is your how, how does your authenticity shine through, right? Like that, because a lot of the execution of your personal authenticity can be whatever it is, but it's I like to make sure that it's coming from a good place. A lot of beauty, a lot of talent that I personally cast for beauty, whether it's for campaigns or whether it's creators, um I like to make sure that as best as I can, that they have a good spirit and they're a good human, because it always shines through. And then I'm always whether they're a big talent or someone just getting started. I don't just pick creators that have X thousands of followers. Like if I see the effort, if I see that they're trying to be creative and unique in their POV and they're figuring it out and trying a few things, you can tell someone's effort and grit as well as they're building. So what I don't want the folks on the call to take away is you need X amount of followers to get started. There are campaigns I personally design for those starter creators that are trying to get beauty brand deals and to build their portfolio and all those things. And as long as you are meeting the brief in the best, most authentic, creative way as you can, I will absolutely give you a shot because I'd love to start your career. So it for casting and talent and things like that, it's yes, how creative are you, but also who are you, what makes you who you are. My callbacks for campaigns, I talk to them. I'm like, yeah, I called you back because you're cute, but who are you as a human, right? Like, do you have good energy? Are you going to be enjoyable on set? Because we have a very good energy on set, so it's beauty plus for me. Yeah.
I love that everyone used the word primarily authenticity. So it seems like just being who you are, that person that maybe you're even scared to show up as because you don't know how much of yourself you can possibly be is the key. And I think it's very important to mention because I think people are figuring out like, is it okay that I laugh a certain way, that I talk a certain way, that I do things in this way? And I love that Tomi actually touched on the point of if you don't show up or you don't fully see or captivate your value, you devalue the person that comes after you. I don't think that I looked at it that way because so many people are entering the door, but you have to remember that right behind you, someone else is coming. And how you show up in that space is going to give the other person permission to feel comfortable to actually enter that space as well. So, speaking of authenticity, let's go on to trends. Trends to me are like the foundation of like shared experiences. Some good shared experiences, of course, some negative ones. But for the most part, trends are powerful in showing us like, hey, even though someone could be in London, someone can be in Jamaica, we're in America, whatever the case may be, yet this theme all found all of us. And we're all dancing to this TikTok. We're all using certain slang, right? So when it comes to that, how can people avoid, as far as like creators as well as entrepreneurs, how can they avoid being trend chasers, but actually lean into the authenticity of, hey, do I actually align with this trend? Am I posting things that actually make sense or, support who I am, or am I just following the clout chasing of what everyone else is doing? And then ShaNiece, I have a question for you when it comes to branding. Deja, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, I feel like you hit the nose on the head within the question. It really is just being authentic. I think so. I recently was consulting for Epic Games, working on all things celebrity relations for Fortnite. So yes, random. I was a gaming girl for a few months, but I am a celebrity girl through and through. But I use them as an example of people that are trying to show up more in the social space, right? So we took a group of celebrities to F1 Las Vegas just a month or so ago. And that was just one of the many experiences that I wanted to use as a case study for them to show that one, you can show up here authentically in the space. And two, you don't have to continue to always lean on, while Kai Cenat is great, he's not the only person that aligns with this brand, right? Or Courage JD and Ninja, all of these like streamers and gamers. If you guys don't know, look into them. I just learned about them too. So, but I say that to say we brought Lucas Sabat, who I am a huge fan of prior to working with him. And then we also brought Brooke and Jess, who are huge TikTok dancers. Some of the dances that we know, those two gals from the UK are so awesome. They created them. And then we also brought someone that they were already, they had a relationship with named Huddy. He's a actor and a musician. But for me, bringing Luca there really meant expansion. And it really showed the team that again, you can wiggle outside of those lines to not be afraid to interact with creators that are culture centric, and have a point of view outside of gaming. And the crazy thing is, he actually is a big Fortnite player. Like he told us he plays Fortnite every day. His girlfriend introduced him to Fortnite because she used to be a streamer. She no longer streams, but that was how he got into it. And when I say he was like fanning out when we were there, like he was wearing the merch we created the whole time. Fortnite did a collaboration with Balenciaga a couple of years ago. He had all of it on. Like it was like the leadership team was soaking it up. And I was like, exactly. And so that was just like a case study of when you are authentic, and even if you are not necessarily the face that they're looking for, that, opportunities will come and things will come. And 2 years ago, he tweeted how he wanted to be creative director of Fortnite. And so now that dream actually might come to fruition. So that's more so obviously on the brand side. And I always, as a consultant, advise brands to step out of the box, right? But that can also work for creators. Don't be afraid to step out of your box. If you're not a gamer and you want to get into gaming, you still have a point of view because maybe you're a cultural tastemaker or you're into fashion. It's a lot of through thread that I think people sometimes miss, but all of us on this call are experts in talent, and I'm sure we all have that natural knack, that natural eye. So it's almost like when and I always like those moments where I can be like, told you so. But yes, but that's my experience. I definitely would love to hear from the other gals on that one.
I love that. You brought people in and you show them different experiences. What about you, Tomi?
I'm trying very hard to remember the question, but I remember it because I was just so inspired by Daisha, like shared. I'm a huge fan of Lucas Sabah as well. Like I feel like sometimes people don't even know who he is or they forgot who he is, but like he literally is the best. Like obsessed. So I think that is so cool, Daisha. Um, I think for me, as somebody who actually also worked at Pinterest, that's very trend driven. I hate to be the one to say I'm not a huge fan of trends. And I think that like Daisha said, you did answer the question within the questions in the sense that um, I think that trends, in my opinion, is almost the antithesis to authenticity, right? Because, you know, I keep seeing the same trends just being sort of repurposed. And I think that I've done a lot of like psychological analysis of this, and I would love to hear ShaNiece's point of view as a potential therapist in the background. But I think that like the younger generation is really obsessed with trends and what do you call it, and cores and things like that. And I think it's because um, there's not enough things happening outside, and so people are building communities via trends and cores online. So, for example, if you're one of those people who are um, autumn whatever girls, if they, I don't know what they call them, then you guys are part of this community of girls who are like autumn whatever whatever and drink I don't know, pumpkin spice lattes or whatever. And then if you are, what do you call it, if you are into uh, I don't know, like cottage core where everything you want to wear is like, I don't know, girly or dresses, and then you have that little like world as well. Um, but which is very different from if you're a gamer, which is a gamer, if you're a part of the gaming world, you've been a part of the gaming world since 1980 up until 2000. Like, that's a real thing. It's not something that changes over time. And I think that's where, in those spaces of knowing who you are and where you fit in, is how you actually can be a part of something, but also stand for something at the same time, right? And I think the best thing is to really understand who you are, and like you said, how which trends actually like make sense for you, or how you actually like bring this like trend to life if you want to bring them to life. um but I think that because of TikTok as well, and because people are able to go viral really quickly and they see everybody's doing this dance, they're going to go viral. That's great. I think there was an article that just came out the other day, I can't remember where, about what does a brand do after they go viral. right? What do you do after you go viral? There's so many things that happen. Can you keep up the momentum? Do you even have enough product to sell? Like there's no way to go, right? And so if you're not even ready to go viral as a brand, first of all, then what is the purpose of going viral? And if you're a person who went viral for something like the Danish conception or deception, I don't know if that's something you want to go viral for. I don't know if that's, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So I would love to hear Shanice's POV.
And I have a piggyback for you, ShaNiece. And Tomi, I want to touch on what you said. I think that people underestimate what comes with going viral, especially when it comes to something that like maybe you just thought was just for fun. And then next thing you know, like they look to you for that thing. Like you're trapped in this box. And I've interviewed so many people who are like, I just did it because I thought it would be fun and it was going around. And like now everyone, only hits me up for that. But that's not the box that I want to be put into. ShaNiece, I want your opinion from a corporate point of view, very specifically. So when it comes to Shea Moisture, you guys at some point, I'm assuming, have to follow some level of trends, right? To keep up with demand. And Shea Moisture went through a complete rebrand, which I love, by the way. So
Thank
when
you.
you so when you are thinking about trending, let's dive into pitching and presenting those ideas. So when it comes to trending and you're trying to share those different ideas to your head bosses, what belongs in a campaign deck for beginners, especially like when you're trying to present the idea? Because I know we spoke one-on-one and you were like, yeah, for this last thing, it took a year to get a yes. And I couldn't believe, I'm thinking like, oh, it just popped up. It was amazing immediately. Everyone loved it. But no, you were like, hey, they didn't understand like the purpose of it. I would love to hear
Mhm,
that.
mhm. Yeah, from a corporate internal brand perspective, chasing trends is almost impossible, especially if you don't have the right resources. And when we are looking to first of all, we ask ourselves if it makes sense for us to participate in the trend, right? Because it brands participating in trends can get really weird really fast. So we have to make sure that one, we have a right to play in that space, and then two, who is the right partner or voice to help us contribute to the trend. So for us, this is another space where we lean on creators. It's who have we seen that fits into this world that could make sense to be the voice for us to participate in said trend. And then when we're looking at the brief back from the creator, it's one, do you understand what we're trying to communicate? Because at the end of the day, we're still a brand who has to communicate a key message or push a product or check a box of from our just brand identity perspective. Do you understand how to do that with us? Um, so are you clear on what we're trying to communicate? Because at the end of the day, what trend or not, we're trying to communicate something. Can you understand that at a brief level? And then can you dissect that in a way that says, I understand what you're trying to say. I understand the DNA of this trend. I can put them together in this way with my unique point of view and my approach to content. And here's how it all works. So any creator that can really understanding the core of a brief is a skill set that I don't think we talk enough about from a creator's perspective. Because if you just create, if we don't put the words on the brief because we don't have nothing else to do. Like it's all there really to help you understand how we think, to help you be great and execute what we need. Um, so yes, trend what the trend, yes, but at the end of the day, we're trying to communicate something as a brand and in a way that is relevant for the moment, and can you turn it around fast? So that's what we think about from a corporate brand perspective and trends.
Thank you for sharing that. I think, like I said, from the outside perspective, everyone has an opinion, especially like when a campaign launches, we immediately tell someone how we feel about it, but we at no point think about all the different masterminds that were in that room consuming and
Mhm,
creating this said idea. So speaking
mhm.
of campaigns, I have two different perspectives that I would love to dive into. Um, Tomi, I want to start with you. When you are pitching for sponsorship for the Black Beauty Club, What do you put in your campaign or even your pitch deck that brings people in? And then ShaNiece, I would love if you could close us out by telling us from a perspective, how you guys, especially your recent campaign, which I have a magazine. Isn't it so cute, guys? I don't know if you guys can see it, but
Oh, she's
yes, and I got one. It was at FAMU. I was like, can I have that? And they were like, yes. Okay.
cute.
So I took it. It's been sitting in my house this whole time. I would love to hear those perspectives. And before I get to Tomi, for anybody in the audience, if you have any questions, this conversation is getting so good. I forgot to mention this. Please put your questions in the Q&A box. I would love to have them wrap things up with answering your personal one-on-one questions that maybe we didn't get a chance to touch on. All right, Tomi, we're ready for you, girl.
I think so. The Black Beauty Club for me is it is a cultural platform before anything, and we describe ourselves as the beauty vanguard. The wonderful thing about the Black Beauty Club is our audience and our community are actually at the forefront of culture, as opposed to other systems that exist that are just trying to work within the systems that exist already. And I'm not a huge fan of that because I actually want to shift the perception of how of what Black beauty is and just what Blackness is. And I think that when you're able to shift the cultural perception of anything, then anything can happen. Um, a prime example of that, for example, to just share with you, especially the audience here, is someone who shifted culture is Jackie Aida, right? She completely shifted the culture of how people perceive the Black person's dollar because she was able to use her platform on YouTube to basically drive sales. And because of that, I know people might not understand this, but because of the value of what she did for the culture, that is why Fenty was able to exist because then people got to realize that, oh, if you weren't able to track the dollars now, here are Black women, not just Jackie, but definitely the forefront of it, Black women who are showing you that other Black people are buying your foundation, are buying your this and buying your that, and blah, blah, blah. And you can track it very easily via like the Google Analytics. And when you shift that culture, not only do they start to market towards you, but then they have to start hiring people that look like you. So if you look at 2020, 2017, you start to see a shift in the amount of Black people that started showing up at the top executive level in the beauty companies. And there's not enough credit for the work that Jackie, Shayla, and all of these people did to really shift the culture of beauty. And that's something that consistently happens, right? Same with people like Mara Brocker Kill, who are also shifting the perception of beauty through film. Ryan Coogler, by bringing diverse, that it's all about shifting culture. And to me, that's the most important thing. So we try to collaborate with people who care about the future of beauty. In a way that sees not just Black people, but all people as like a wider standard of beauty overall, right? Because when we're able to translate that and shift that perception, that you actually are able to create more opportunities for everyone else. So what I tend to do, which I always recommend to people, is looking at what the business's goals are, right? So for example, if I want to go to, I don't know, um, I'll say OpenAI, for example, right? I want to know what their goals are. And you can find out what their goals are because they're a publicly traded company and you hear the earnings report all the time. So you know, for me, that they're trying to reach a certain kind of people. And for me, Black people are people and not necessarily just Black people. So I look at it as like, I have this target demographic, I have this age that you're looking for, and I have these kind of people that are the what do you call it? I forgot the word for it, but they're the ones who are at the forefront of the trend, and they're the ones who are going to influence other people. They'll always say there's an influencer's influencer. That's what I believe our community is we have editors that come to our events, and by the time they leave, they have story ideas that comes out within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So if you want to reach that audience, that's the people that we have. And so we try to position it that way to the people that matter. Um, and really looking at what their goals are ultimately and making sure it shifts. I'm not like big on like 1,000,001 partnerships. I'm not somebody, if you ever come to a Black Beauty Club event or if you attend the Black Beauty Talks, you're not going to see uh, 5 or 7 beauty brands. That means nothing. That means nothing for the brand. And that is just confusing for the, what do you call it, for the audience. And then they don't even know who to tag at the end of the day. That means nothing. you know. So to me, that's just kind of like how I like to look at it, because it's, for me, it's quality over quantity.
Preach, girl. All right, ShaNiece, we would love to know from Shea Morris's point.
Imani, give me the question one more time.
So when it comes to campaigns, a lot of
Hmm.
people don't know what actually goes into it. So from Tomi's point of view, I would love to know. I wanted
Hmm.
to know how she went about when it came to sponsorships. So for you guys, what do you
Hmm.
guys look forward to, and what are some of the little processes and procedures for beginning to end as far as campaigns and building out decks?
Thank you, thank you. So at the core of it, I keep going back to briefs because they are they are the foundation for every campaign we do. And if the brief is bad, the output is bad. So from a brief perspective, the key components of it include, again, what are we trying to say, what are we communicating, making sure that we're not trying to say too many things, because attention span and just things in market are very short. To what do we understand about who our audience is, what are those really rich insights. It's data, yes, but then we go on social media and we go on I personally love Pinterest, and we see how that audience is talking about the problem we're solving for themselves. We don't guess, we don't assume, we go see what they're saying themselves. And then three, what is the best way to execute that campaign across the different platforms that it needs to live on? So for me, the seat that I sit in, our content shows up organically, yes, on social media, but I really build content for ads and across social, across YouTube, across Reddit. Everywhere you see an ad, that's what I build for. And every one of those platforms require different execution, different messaging style, different treatments, different direction. Um, so we have to make sure when we're building a campaign, it has enough legs on it that it can give us that big moment on organic social, but also it can sustain across all of those paid media placements, that we're building for from an advertising perspective. And then also at the end of the day, I just like to make sure that our audience feels seen. If we are not, it's one thing to talk at you and it's one thing to talk with you. So I like to make sure when we're creating and ideating and crafting that it's, does she feel like we are at the table with her and not at her? Because no one wants to be talked at ever. Um, and then that also forces us as marketers to create from our hearts and as humans. Um, because it requires a different level of empathy when you're talking with someone at their kitchen table. Um, so yes, it's we're human first. It's always, how do we see her? How does she want to be seen? And then how do we talk to her and celebrate her visually? So to Tomi's point, like it is representing our culture and visually is heavy. I mean, we blackness is not a monolith, right? And trying to make sure that every pocket at least feels seen and understood and like they matter is something we don't take lightly. So it's making sure that we check all those little boxes that then amount to someone seeing an ad and going, all right, Shay, y'all was in my kitchen. I'm like, yeah, girl, let us help you. All right. So yes, it's we take it very seriously. There's a lot of heart in it.
There's a lot of heart in it, and I feel all the love, all the love. This is the perfect opportunity to get to the audience's questions, and they have so many amazing questions. So this is a rapid fire round. So very quick, brief answers, but strategically to the point, of course. I'm going to start with you, Deja. So we have a question from Nyla Stevenson. She says, as a college student aspiring to build my personal brand, she finds it hard to find ways to consistently reach her personal and educational goals while also growing her social media following and brand. So, what are some tips for being consistent in all areas of her life? And how can she reach her goals both professionally as well as personally at the very same time?
Well, as a person who I also, even to this day, with social media, I post what I want. And I don't have a huge following, and that's okay. But I think like it's what we talked about earlier. It's just being consistent. I am very much so the queen of shoot your shot. I am the cold email queen. I think that when growing your personal brand and also trying to grow professionally, you can't be scared to really advocate for yourself. And really to, again, push yourself sometimes into these rooms, into these spaces. And also, I find now that, like, especially on LinkedIn, I love the evolution of LinkedIn influencers that we're seeing, right? Like there's an opportunity to become a creator in different spaces. I love Substack. There's plenty of creators there. There's creators obviously beyond your TikToks and your Instagram now. So I think you find what is most comfortable for you. And again, I said this earlier, the lane you want to be in, the space you want to be in, and you just show up authentically and consistently in that space. And what is supposed to come to you will come to you. And then professionally, it's the same thing, right? Like, it's funny, I just had this conversation with my mom. I was applying to some roles within Hearst magazines, and I looked back at all the times that I applied, right? But it's consistency. I know when my time comes, it will come. That's the same for, I've applied to several places and have gotten no's or not. I always look at that as not yet. And so I say just keep going. Don't let those no's or hurdles stop you. Just jump over them. And what is supposed to align will align.
Can I build on that really quickly?
Of course.
I would also explore what you think is holding you back and unpack that and get to the root of that, because there could be other blockers internally and subconsciously that you're not aware of. And you need to sit with that and understand it so you can acknowledge it and work through it. Like you almost have to also understand how your brain works so it works with you and not against you. That's my quick fire build.
Good job, girl. All right, so we have a question for Tomi. So Gianna wants to know, how exactly is culture defined in each role or industry, and how do you use it to, like, how do you leverage it?
I think that it's obviously very hard to define culture, right? Because it's inherent to you and everyone in a very, very different way. But I think that if you're able to leverage not just your culture, but just worldwide culture overall in the work that you do, it just makes it so much easier for you to connect with your target audience overall. And so I don't really know exactly how to define culture because it's such a vast word overall. But all I know is that for me, from the perspective of beauty, majority of the world, beauty is something that's passed down to you from another adult, right? And I think to me, that's something that's really fascinating. It's honestly like the psychology of human behavior, right? I look at it as like, I think about the eyeliner, right? Everybody loves to put an eyeliner on, but like if you go to the Middle East, eyeliner is a huge and important part of their culture to protect you from the sun, right? If you go to certain parts of Africa, a child is born, the first thing they do is put eyeliner on them to, what do you call it? To, I guess, ward off evil. Same thing when you go to India, it's the same thing. A child is born, the first thing you do is put an eyeliner on them, put a little bit of it on their neck, again, to keep the evil eye away. And so to me, it's like, how do you connect the dots between all the different cultures to tell stories that are meaningful to people? You know what I mean? Same thing with lipstick. For a Latina woman, a red lipstick is any and everything. So if you're gonna do something for them, center a red lipstick, and that's a sign of power for them. For Black women, red lipstick is really important to talk about. Why? Because for so long, Black women have been told that they shouldn't wear red lipstick. So when you wear red lipstick, it's kind of like taking your power back from what they say looks or doesn't look good on you. So to me, that's kind of always how I look at using culture as a part of the storytelling. And almost everything that you do, and almost every work that you do, except for being a doctor, even a lawyer, is all about storytelling, right? So how do you use different cultures to like really transform storytelling that will really resonate and connect with your audience, right? Even just like, Daisha's experience with Luca, who I get obsessed with, and just, the culture of gaming, you know what I'm saying? That is a huge thing. So like culture can mean so many things. It just really matters how you want to apply it to the work that you do. And also how do you protect it, right? Because again, I worked at boohoo.com, which is a fast fashion brand that everyone really loved, but I launched it in the United States. And after a while, I had to stop myself because I felt like I was booking Ray Shremmerd, I was booking all these people to basically be the face of this brand, but I don't really know if I'm selling out my culture for fast fashion. So like there's a lot of things that you got to think about when you play with culture overall, but it is truly why brands are successful, i.e. Nike, i.e. Apple. Everybody has a culture. Everybody has a way in which they want to show up and connect with people. So just think about what that means for you along the work that you are doing, whether you're an advertiser, whether you're a marketer, whether you're a salesperson, you have your community and that community has a culture.
That's so funny that Tomi mentioned about Nike because I've done a lot of work with Nike and it made me think about that when she was talking about everything. But if you've ever worked with Nike, honey, they are Nike to the T. And they know their brand, they know where they sit, they know their place within culture, sneaker culture, athletic wear, etc. And I think that's the beauty of it. And so I've worked with a few campaigns, the Nike Yard Runners campaign, the Fab Five, FAMU, and LeBron James campaign. And the core of that was how do we matriculate into these larger subcultures, right? So HBCU culture, FAMU culture, athletic culture, and all of those different things. But I also wanted to touch on too, and I'll keep it brief, was keeping your finger on the pulse. When you're working in this work, you have to constantly be, and as much as we try to say not keep up with the trends, but you have to know a level of who's who in popular culture. And early on, I was donned by a boss, the pop culture queen, because she would mention someone. I'd be like, "Oh, girl, did you hear how they were blah blah blah?" And it just kind of stuck with me. So I say, read as much as you can read, and also just try to stay as engaged on social as you can. And yeah, that's really in the culture piece. I think is hard to say when we say in these industries because again, like Tommy said, there's subcultures and there's a lot of other cultures, but I think ultimately popular culture is I think what the person I think Gianni was trying to touch on of how do you define that in these roles, but it can be very niche and specific or it can be very broad, but I think just being able to tap into multi-cultures is important as well.
I definitely agree. We're going to round it out with the last question, and I'm going to give it to you, ShaNiece. So we have two different people who either one person started a company and one person who's a little bit more progressive. It mostly comes down to they would love any suggestions on the best way to introduce their services, as well as how to get organized, if you have any advice for that.
Ooh. Hmm. I would say start with what skill sets you want to offer. Um, what skill sets you want to offer, and then who in those spaces can you reach out to get mentored by, build relationships with, network with. The organization piece though, it comes down to how your brain works. I have gone through so many organization tools, and I mean they run the gamut. Um, I think from an organization perspective is what does your day look like, and how do you organize your tasks against if you're a morning person versus evening person around your meetings, all the things, but it's hard when you're busy and have a lot going on. So the organization piece is something that you should just give yourself a lot of grace for because it 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 can be, depending on how much you have going on, an ongoing skill you're trying to build. And you just have to test and see what works best for you. And then getting started, I mean, I'm TikTok, I would, once you have what areas and skill sets you want to bring to the world or to clients, I would jump on TikTok and start creating content around how that positions you as an expert, or even LinkedIn, as Deja said earlier, and start giving your POV, pick an article, write about it. People really, as you're getting started, want to understand how you think. And the more opportunities you create for yourself to share how you think, the better. And then see what people respond to. Social media is a great way. It's vulnerable, but it's a great space to test and learn. So you view it as that for a little bit and see what you get back after 3 months, and then pivot and plan accordingly. See who reaches out to you and why. But I would, after you figure out what you want to offer, I would just test that, the sharing your thinking around it and showing your chops in it on social, and see what people gravitate towards. Yeah.
Such amazing, amazing advice. And this was such a beautiful conversation, guys. I couldn't thank you more. I want to thank you, ladies, for joining us for today and for sharing not only your experience, but your authentic point of view, each of you. Please share with the audience how they can stay in touch with you.
I'm on Instagram and TikTok underscore ShaNiece Marie. Like 50% of Black girls in America. And then LinkedIn, just my first name and last name.
Thank you, ShaNiece. What about you, Deja?
Yes, my LinkedIn is my first and my last name. And then also on Instagram, it is XO Deja Chanel.
Thank you. And Tomi?
I don't use my LinkedIn. There's like a million and one emails constantly. So I would say hit me on Instagram at Tomi doing, I think, stuff. Yeah, Tomi doing
But
stuff.
that's not in the chat too. You're good.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one.
In the Black Beauty page.
Yes, and the Black Beauty Club page, yes.
Good job. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you guys backstage.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.